Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Frame Live. My name is Dottie San Martin. I'm one of your hosts today here on Beyond the Frame. And with me today, I have Orly, my sidekick.
How's it going?
Her name is Dottie San Martin. I'm one of your hosts today here on Beyond the Frame. And with me today, I have Orly, my sidekick. Okay, so her name is Dottie San Martin. I'm one of your hosts today here on Beyond the Frame. Okay, not sure what's going on, folks. We are going to fix this. Okay, technology. I have been being challenged all day today with technology. So we got that out of the way right out of the gate, folks.
Right.
So apparently Zoom had an update. So when you go live through Zoom, you have the Facebook open as well. So sorry about that, viewers. Anyway, Orly and I are super excited today. We saw a news story a couple of weeks back on a gentleman that just really touched our hearts. And so, as Orly and I always do, when we find a story, we start stalking. So that is exactly what we did. So today, I would like to welcome James Washington. James, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
James is the general manager of Bowl America Southwest in Midlothian. Am I correct, James?
In Midlothian, Virginia. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And you're also the head women's bowling coach for Virginia Union University. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. I've been coaching for 2 years.
Wow. Well, those two combined seem like a pretty full-time job.
Yeah, very much so.
So I just want to start out by saying, you know, you've been in the bowling industry for quite some time, both in a center, working with the youth programs, and now on the university level with the women's, as the women's head coach. How did this all get started, James?
Boy, that's a interesting question. It really came out of nowhere. I actually started working at a bowling center as a pin chaser back in 1988 with no idea about bowling, never bowled before, didn't know a whole lot about the sport. Became a pin chaser, liked that a little bit. They moved me out of that position, and then it just kind of took off. I became a promotions director, then an assistant manager, and then a manager. And in that time frame, I was able to meet a lot of influential people. Mm-hmm. Some of them have already passed away, but they got me into the youth side of the bowling. One named Miss Lula Richards, who was the youth director at Bowl America Eastern, come on board as a coach, and I did, and loved it ever since. Yeah.
Wow. And did you come up through the youth program yourself, or did you just come really literally get into this sport as a pin chaser?
Believe this or not, I bowled 1 year as a youth bowler in 1976. Threw the ball completely wrong. Team I was on won the league, and I never picked up a bowling ball again till I got to Virginia Tech, helped out with the bowling program there for a little bit, and then came back to Richmond, and that's where it all started. But no, I bowled 1 year and knew nothing about bowling at all.
Well, I have to say, I'm very thankful that you did not just do the 1 year and stop, because you would have robbed a lot of people of your experience and your wisdom. So I'm grateful that you didn't just throw in the towel at that point.
It would have been easy to do because I really wasn't good of a bowler. I threw the ball just backwards, spun it. I had no idea what I was doing. Somebody would tell me to move to make a spread. I'm like, okay, just throw it down the middle, call it a day. That's all I did. So.
Wow. Fast forward all these years later and
yes.
look at the knowledge that you have. And as you said, you came across so many people that helped you along the way, right?
Yes, a lot of people. Yes.
Yeah, and that's one thing that this industry, we were talking a little bit about this before we went live, about this industry, the bowling industry, is so unique in the fact that it is very much a family. Everybody wants
Right.
to help one another. Everybody's there for one another. And it sounds like in the beginning of your career that was definitely the case, of people trying to help you learn to be a better coach and to be able to help other people.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that showed me some things as I was growing up in the bowling, as I was doing the pin chasing, that said, okay, James, this is how we do it. And I just kind of learned from them on what they did and took some of their methods and kind of stepped them up a little bit.
That's one thing I've noticed with in the bowling industry, even me, you know, helping run a family center, and being a little bit newer to it also, is I get customers that come in and, you know, they say, hey, do you know about this? Or did you ever see this or hear about this? And I'm
Right.
like, oh, no, I've never heard about that. And they just want to tell you the story and help you. It just seems, you know, I've gone to programs and kind of classes about different bowling classes and stuff. And it seems, even though you're there with other centers too, that are in your area or out of your area, everybody still wants to help. It's nobody really, you know, nobody's really, I get it. It's kind of can be competitive if you're close, but still everybody's still trying to help you. And everybody in this industry really seems to want to always help.
And Dottie said it best. It's a family oriented business. You get to be a part of everybody's family and you treat everybody like family.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep.
Absolutely. You know, and James, you, so you have a youth program at your center now that you are very, very involved with. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am, I do. A youth program, when I got to Southwest in 95, was on a decline, had like 30 some kids. And one of the things that got me into it, I had a young lady that was bowling, and her mother was like, you need to help my daughter. She really wants to bowl. Nobody's helping her. I said, okay, time, but I'll figure out something. And so her and I got a relationship. We started working together at nighttime when the bowling was closed and all kinds of things. And she became a really good bowler, but it took her mom to tell me, if you don't help my child, I'm pulling her out of bowling. And I wasn't going to let that happen. So I was like,
wow.
let's do what we need to do. And when I moved from the center to Southwest, she came with me. And the mother brought her child over to my program. And I was like, okay. So now I've got a friend, I got a bowler.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it kind of took off. So we got to Southwest with her help and her mom's help. Program went from 35 kids to 60 in the first 2 years I was there.
No. And when you inherited the youth program, is this something that you said, hey, this is something I'm going to turn into something huge? Or was it something that just kind of took off? What were your thoughts on it in the very beginning?
In the beginning, because I like kids so much and what I could see was happening and kids weren't happy, it became a project to make it get better, to grow it, to make the kids enjoy it more, bring some different coaching in so the kids would get a benefit from it. So yeah, it became a project. It was actually Golden Bowl America. I did more for the kids than I did anything because it became a really big goal for me to get that program where I thought it should be. And it actually grew and grew and grew to a point we got to almost 200 kids in 2004.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. So what is the size of your program right now post-COVID?
Post-COVID, we are sitting about 80, 85. We continue to grow every year. We went, you know, we pick up about 10 to 15 kids every year, but you lose some for graduation in college. So we've been pretty much averaging between 80 and 85. Our goal is to get back to 100. I think we'll be there after this year. We've already had some interest for next year. But it's making sure you have the right type of coaches, dedicated coaches, and the company allows me to do things that benefit the kids. Nothing elaborate, but to make sure that I'm up on those kids, tournaments, scholarship opportunities, things like that. So it always is a project for me. I love all my league bowlers. I tell everybody this. I love my league bowlers, but my kids are why I stay in bowling.
Yeah.
My
Well,
kids,
that's our future too.
yeah. You know, I stay in there because of my kids. And then I try to retire. Another parent says, you can't do that. My son still got 3 years. You can't do You may never leave this business for all the kids.
Oh gosh. Well, James, there's a lot of our viewers that I'm sure, you know, are very interested in hearing how you've grown your program because, these days youth have so many options. They're very involved in other activities. They've got their soccer on the weekends and they're
Yeah.
so divided, as well as parents don't have the time to take them and all that kind of stuff. So that's always that big burning question of everybody is, I want to grow my youth program, but it just seems like I just can't get it back to the way I once had it. Or do you have anything that you can say is what really has helped you?
I think the biggest thing that has helped our program over the years is the dedication of our coaches. Of all. Second of all, I think that we have kept our program. I have a lot of kids that play a lot of sports, so we know that.
Yeah.
And we lost a lot of kids due to soccer. So I had to come up with something that was going to help the program and not lose kids. So we developed what we call a pre-bowling program where kids can come in at a different time than their normal time and still get their scores in for their teams. So
Very nice.
they actually still get the bowl, still get to compete. The other thing that we did was we started the first ever scholarship program for bowling. In 1998, we decided trophies are good, but after a while, what are you going to do with a trophy?
Yeah.
Now the little
You're
kids,
trained to dust.
yeah, the little kids still love the trophy, so we make sure that they need to see something tangible. But we started a scholarship program where every youth bowler in our program gets a scholarship. You could be the best bowler, you could be not so good, but you were going to get scholarship at the end of the season. And I think that brought a lot of people in and knowing that, I can get scholarship money. Oh, I can also bowl at a different time. So my kid can still play soccer, my kid can still play basketball. I have 4 children, and both my boys who are really into bowling did other sports. And to make sure that, okay, I want them to bowl, so let's figure something out. So the pre-bowling program does work. It's a little bit more work for me and my coaches because we got to be there when they pre-bowl. But if you want to continue, you got to give them opportunities that don't interfere with other sports because they're going to play other sports.
Yeah.
Figure out other ways to get them in there. And then the other part about their program growing is outreaching to the community. We do outreach every year, community day, where we get out in the community, invite people to come in the bowl. We don't charge them to come in, practice with some of the kids that are already on the teams. They get to learn what we do, get to learn what the program's all about. And so that's how you got to make it grow. You got to make sure that for every kid to be able to do it, you got to include everybody.
Yeah.
We're not a big high school area, so we don't get a lot of high school bowling like some communities do. Everything we do in the center, which is a little bit of work, but if you don't mind doing the work, you'll get a good reward. And that's what we've got. My parents are incredible. My kids are just awesome. If they go to tournaments, I go with them. My wife gets mad because I'm always on the road, but I go with the kids. If they got a tournament,
you're right there with them.
I'll be there with them. Even if my child's not bowling, I'm going to go. So, the company doesn't always like that because I'm off a lot, but they got to work with me because they know how important it is to me.
Of course. I am a little curious on your pre-bowl. Do you have specific times and days or okay? So you at least know it's only on these days.
We have it 2 days a week, and then Saturday we bowl on Saturday mornings. But we have Wednesday and Thursday. We set up as pre-bowl days. They come right after school until time my night league start, and they have to sign up ahead of time. You can't just walk in. You got to sign up ahead of time, so we know how many kids are coming. And it's worked. The other thing that we do that I think that helps our program and should help everybody's program is we involve the kids into doing fundraising and outreach activities. So they act as a group. They come up with the fundraising ideas they want to do. They raise money. to help pay for some of their entry fees. And then the outreach, we've done feed the homeless, go to the
Oh,
food.
nice.
That makes everybody be a part. So everybody's included to give back to the community, because the community helps us a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're definitely doing something right, and that's kind of how we came across you. We saw that you were nominated by some parents for an Act of Kindness award.
Yes.
What did you think when you found out you were nominated for that award? Were you thrown off?
Actually, I didn't even know it. They showed up in my building. Cameras were flashing, and I was like, "What are y'all doing?" I had no idea. I don't know if the picture that they showed, my face was like, I had no idea what was going on. My wife didn't even know. So she didn't even know until the night before, and she didn't tell me anything. And I'm like, what are you people here for? You ready to go home? What are we doing? So yeah, it was very much a shock, very much, very appreciative, but yeah, I had no idea. No idea what was going on. None whatsoever.
That's so nice that they were able to share and show how much they appreciate all that you do for their kids. I think that's just a great story.
Yeah, and the gentleman that actually put it together, his grandchildren is now born in my program. He's an older gentleman, and his grandchildren are a big part of my program. It's such a family atmosphere at my center, especially with the kids. All the kids, I know them. The parents allow me to treat them as they're my kids. If they get in trouble, they come see me. If they have problems at school, they know they got to talk to me, because the school grades got to be up. So I give a lot of credit to our parents and what they've allowed me to do with their kids. And then I give a lot of credit to my wife, who has been very supportive of our youth program. She actually is now the youth director of our program. So it's
Very
kind of,
nice.
Yeah, and sometimes you see, you might just feel you're doing good there in your center. There's a lot of kids there, but it's being the word's being spread. You were on the news. Now you're on. I don't know. I'm going to say the #1 bowling podcast. I mean, I don't know if I have any numbers to back that, but I mean, it's just got to be a cool experience. I mean, I know you might be a little overwhelmed at times, but
yes.
It's cool to know that now you're spreading your message to us and then our viewers. It's got to be a cool thing for you.
And it is. I'll tell you, one of the brightest spots of this whole thing was when that piece aired on that Tuesday. 5 minutes after it was over, somebody called and wanted to know how to get their kid into the youth program.
Oh, that's amazing.
That was the most rewarding thing of it all, regardless of what they gave me, regardless of the recognition. When that parent called, I mean, the newscast had been over 5 minutes. And they said, James, you got a phone call. And it was a young lady who wanted to know how to get her child signed up for the youth program. So I'm like, okay.
Well, James, I have to tell you, when I saw that little piece, and people that know me have heard me refer to this before, I got a warm fuzzy. You know what I'm talking about? You get that good warm feeling inside.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I got a warm fuzzy, because it was, I could just feel your passion for those kids. And I was very involved in the youth program. I love what you're doing. I was president for Greater San Antonio for many years and devoted many, many years of my life to the youth of San Antonio, and would do it all over again any day. But it's very interesting, because I hope that you are able to see, and I'm curious if anybody has ever come back to you, because you shared with me you've got now kids in the program that you had their parents, right? So you're going on a couple of generations here. I don't want to give nobody's age away, but yeah,
It's okay. I'm very proud of that. Yes, there are kids now that have their kids bowling in the program. My grandchildren are now bowling in my program.
That's awesome.
And I do get a lot of the kids that come back and say, "Hey, James, how you doing? This is what I'm doing now." I got a couple of kids that have bowled in a couple of PBA tournaments, regionals, and things like that. So it's very rewarding. And I brag. If a kid comes and say, "Hey, I cashed this tournament," I say, "He bowled in my program. He came from my program."
I raised him right.
So I take a lot of pride in all the things they do. I have kids now that are running pro shops. So yeah, they come back. We still stay in touch because I've been part of their weddings, part of their ups and their downs. But like I said, yeah, kids now have their. In fact, two of the kids that I coached in college, at my college, now have their children bowling in my program. And I was their
Wow.
coach.
Well, James, I know that your accomplishments with these youth on the lanes have been phenomenal.
Okay.
And you have all kinds of records to show that. But to me, it's also amazing of the lives that you have touched off the lanes, of taking such personal interest in these young adults. And as you said, they have to have their grades up. You're gonna hold them accountable, right? That's phenomenal that you take such pride in who you are as a person, that you are going to hold them accountable for that. And having someone do that for you, having someone hold you accountable, that gives that child a good feeling. And so I hope that along the way that you have had people come back and share with you the tremendous impact that you had on them becoming the person that they became.
And I have, and they may not always come back and say it, but I can see it in what they're doing and see it in how they've changed over the years. I mean, I don't, like I said earlier, I don't do this for me, so I don't need a pat on the back. I don't need to say, hey, you did this.
Sure.
I can see it. I can feel it. When they come back and tell me their stories, I know I'm like, okay, I know that where you started and where you come from.
Yeah, your fingerprints
God.
are all over it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
sometimes,
so-
yeah, like you said, you might not need a pat on the back, but just knowing it makes you feel good.
Yeah,
I've coached
and you're
my
right.
son's baseball teams for 4 or 5 years, and what's kind of cool to me, I always thought, was somebody would see me in town and they're with family or friends, and they could easily say, oh, this is my son's friend's dad, but they're always like, oh, this is coach, he helped coach.
Yep.
And they, their kids are great players sometimes, and they just tell you though, hey, I knew my kid could be good, but just your help bring out
Yeah.
more in them. Or sometimes they don't want to listen to me, but they
Right.
listen to coach, and that's always just a good feeling.
Yeah,
And that,
and I get
that's a really good point, because not only are you helping the child, but James, there's a lot of parents that I'm sure you haven't, parenting is not an easy job. We were talking with Mookie Betts' mom a few weeks back, and we said the same thing to her. It doesn't come with a book that says this is how you raise your
Right.
child, right?
Right.
So, I'm sure there's a lot of parents that you have had influence on how they've raised their child. And that's huge.
Yeah, not only that, that is something that does happen, but what I also like is that the parents that if they are, I've had parents come say, James, can you talk to my child? Can you do something with my child because he's not listening to me? Kids don't listen to their parents. And, we'll have a conversation, and then I'll have the kid come back and say, hey, I did what you told me. It worked. My mom and I are on better terms now. So,
Oh, wow.
it's been good. Like I said, again, because of the type of parents that we have that have allowed me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could go into many stories about things that we've done outside of the bowling center with some of the kids that have grown up, like host their 16th birthday parties at my house, have
Oh my goodness.
sleepovers with the guys at my house. When my mom was living, she'd open up her house to all of the kids that wanted to come, and we would just have, graduation parties, birthday parties. I can go back and remember when my son, I adopted my oldest son, I adopted, and we had a little get together at the house, and I had to leave because something happened at work. I left all the kids at my house with my adopted son all by themselves. But I trusted them, and they knew we can't do nothing wrong.
Uh-huh. Or we'll have to answer for it for
Yeah.
coach.
So they watched my kid until I got back home, and everything was fine. So been a lot of lifelong friendships that I will always treasure. As my mom used to say, do you know everybody? Do you just know everybody?
Well, just about probably.
Pretty much. So. I know a lot of people, Mom, but it's been great. I would not have traded what I've done for the kids for anything. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. So I'm glad I'm stuck with it after that 1 year of bowling.
Yes, yes. I am very grateful you didn't throw in the towel. Well, James, we are very appreciative of what you do for your community and beyond, but most especially the lives that you touch by what you do. And you will never really fully know the impact that you've had on all the lives that you've touched.
Thank you very much.
But we are so thankful for people like you that have just unselfishly given of their time to help others. So for that, I say thank you very much.
Thank you.
I also have to ask, I ask most everybody that's on the show, this is very much a show, as I said earlier, we try to find the people that have the stories. We try to find the movers and the shakers. And we try to bring those messages, those positive messages, those messages of hope. Is there any words of wisdom that you would like to share with our viewers today?
I think if I had to share one thing, it would be make sure that you are kind to everybody you're with, everybody you meet. Just be kind and be friendly. And when it comes to kids, get to their level, understand what they're going through. Because you were a kid, you remember how things were. You need to make sure that you are meeting them where they are and getting them to where they need to be. That's the big, meeting the kids where they are.
And you know, something that simple could really help to get your youth program to start growing again.
Yeah.
You know, keeping your eye on that particular thing right there.
And I'm thinking next year we'll be at 100. Because again, as I said, phone calls have been coming in ever since the story, and the kids just keep calling. We picked up 3 new kids in the last 2 weeks, so it'll grow.
That's wonderful. That's great. Well, James, Orly and I are going to check back with you to see when you hit that lucky number, because I have no doubt that it will happen. We're all about milestones. I have to do a real quick shout out here because Orly and I recently, well, last June, as a matter of fact, we decided that we were going to start a Beyond the Frame TikTok channel. Okay. And our goal, we're very much goal setters. Orly and I are both very much goal setters. And when we set our eye on something, we want to try to accomplish it, right? So in June of last year, our goal was that we wanted to have 1,000 TikTok followers. Okay. Drum roll, folks.
Right.
This week, we went over 1,000.
All right.
Awesome. Really excited. So we're very happy that we did that. So I have no doubt that it will be a matter of a few weeks and you're going to have your youth program back to where you want it to be. So we're going to check on you and see how that's going. So I expect to hear a lot more really good things coming out of you and your center.
Thank you.
Orly, have we left anything major out that we had on our radar that we wanted to talk to James about?
Not really. I think we covered a lot. I mean, we didn't get to all our questions because we got to, all our questions led into what we kind of wanted to ask. You had mentioned in the beginning, he also does coach a college women's team. Yes. So and we saw in his, when he gave us some more information about him, he's also a deacon and helps with the music program. So James is definitely a busy guy. And I'm sure when it comes to bowling, his coaching at the college, his church, I'm sure everybody appreciates him. I mean, I appreciate him, and I just met you, James. I think you're a great person.
Thank you. I thank you for the opportunity. I mean, like I said, and I've always said, I don't do it for me. You got to do it for the kids.
And it you can tell. No. It comes from your heart, and that's very, very obvious. Very, very obvious. Well, James, thank you very much for agreeing to this interview and for taking time out. I do understand you have to go to work after this. So I know that this was kind of a wrinkle in your day here, but I appreciate you making it happen. And as I said, we really appreciate everything that you do for the youth and beyond the youth, the parents, just this industry or this sport in particular. Just thank you for being you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Absolutely. Viewers, if you have any comments, James will be able to access the video. So if you have any questions, comments, you want to pick his brain about anything, you have questions about your youth program, James has graciously said that he would look at the comments and he would chirp in when necessary on that. So please don't hesitate, viewers, to comment or stop in and say hello to James on Beyond the Frame Live for this video. And thank y'all very much for tuning in. Thank you for being patient with this new interface for Zoom. Got that squared out away, and apologies for that little disruption at the beginning of the video, but we're all good now. So that's all that matters. So Beyond the Frame viewers, thank you for being our viewers. Thank you for joining us today. And James, thank you for being James.
Thank you.
Until
Thank you very
next time,
much.
everybody, Orly and Dottie say so long. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Beyond the Frame.